Hello, what is your process for picking out and buying seeds? You can choose to buy seeds in bulk if you like to plant a lot of vegetables, like choose few vegetables but plant a lot of those few vegetables that you pick. Or you can choose to buy a lot of vegetables because you want to plant a little bit of everything, and you create a seed list, and with that list you can shop. If you want to buy small packet, you don't want a lot of seeds, you can buy from local grocery store, nurseries, or greenhouses. If you like to buy bulk seeds, you can buy them online. If you like to plant, small amount of a little bit of everything, but you have a specific number of every single vegetables that you like to harvest from your garden, well, you might take few more things into consideration. So we are going to work with that principle before we work with the bulk version. For instance, let's say you want to purchase cabbage, and you just want enough seeds to plant because you want to harvest a certain number of cabbage from your garden. So if you go through your cabbage and you pick a specific cabbage to plant, then you'll ask yourself how many of that cabbage you want to harvest from your garden. Let's say you want to eat, you are planning of cooking about 1 cabbage a week. For the year, that's 52 cabbages that you need. You don't need to plant for the year, depending on what you are trying to reach. If you are not trying to grow 1 year worth of food, then you are not going to use 1 year time frame. But let's say you want to grow 1 year worth of cabbage, so then you need 52 cabbages to harvest. So now you need to ask yourself the germination rates, and you can just Google it, and I think for cabbage is 80%. And I don't know if nurseries will tell you the germination percentage or not. Otherwise, you can Google it, and based on our search is 80% or so. So that means if you plant 100 seeds, 80 will grow. That is never taking into consideration the fact that you might have bunny that might try to damage your things or things like that. So that's 80 for 100 seeds. 80 will germinate. So you want 52 cabbages. Therefore, one plant produce 1 head of cabbage. Therefore, you want to have at least 52 germinations in your garden. So that means how many seeds you need to have. So when we open our trusty calculator, we can do 52 divided by 0.8 is giving us 65. So if you have 65 seeds times 0.80 will give you 52. So you need to have at least 65 seeds planted, assuming everything goes well. So now you search on where you are going to buy to see how many seeds per gram or per ounce they have in the package to know the right package seeds to purchase. And per gram is 150 to 350. We can just go with the mid range or just go with 150, the smallest. So 150 seeds per gram. And the minimum they are selling here is what? 0.2 gram. Is 0.2 gram, and in 1 gram they have 150 seeds. So 0.2 gram, then you can again go and do 150 seeds times 0.2 gram will give you 30 seeds, if I'm doing it right, because 150 seeds is per gram, is it? Yeah. So the minimum is 0.2. So if you buy 2 of that, it will be about 30 seeds. 3 of that will give you 90 seeds. Okay, so now you take that 2.95 times 3 is giving you $8.85, and you'll have 90 seeds, and you'll pay $8.85. On the other hand, if you buy 1 gram, you'll have 150 seeds minimum for $8.50. So 1 gram is giving you more seeds, but few cents less. Therefore, 1 gram of this cabbage is what you'll purchase. It will be enough for you to plant at least 65 seeds and hope to harvest at least 52. But again, taking into consideration that you might have damages, therefore it might be a good idea to maybe plant double that amount and hope to harvest a half of it at least. But that will be my calculation when deciding to purchase exactly the right amount that I need to plant to harvest an estimated number of vegetables from the garden. And you have to do that for every single one of the things you want to plant. If you are thinking about harvesting a certain number and want to get enough seeds for that. And that was an exercise I did with one of my kids, because I want them to get involved, and I want them to pick a vegetables to plant and be in charge of, and I want them to harvest enough for the house supply for the year. And one of them picked cabbage, and we went through that scenario so that I can create a list of things that I need to place an order for. So the second option will be to buy in bulk, and that was the option that I went with.
Come on.
And when you'll create a list of things that you want to plant, and you can actually create that list. You can actually create the list before you start shopping. But if you want to buy in bulk, you will do that online. I went to local store to see if I'll be able to find seeds in bulk so that I can buy from stores that I have around me. But I only find small packet seeds. Therefore, I purchase online. So even though I have some list of items to purchase, I didn't really use that list when I was creating the final list that I will use to make the purchases. I use the website. So we are going to use the website and do that together. So to create your list of produce, of seeds to purchase, you can use the store that you like to, the online store that you like to buy from, and in this essence is Fedco. It's Fedco seeds. So you can just go. We are talking about vegetables, so you can just go through it, and when you come across something you are thinking about planting, you can click on it. Something I didn't talk about when I'm talking about the small pack, we are going to talk about it in the bulk seeds area. So let's say you want to buy beets. So you'll go through the big section. If you do not like hybrid, you eliminate those just by looking. You will see if you come across hybrid, you don't click on those. Then unless you have a particular type of beet in mind to grow, then you will click on pretty much every single one of them that are not hybrid, and you read the instructions on those beets. And as you read, you can just pick one variety. That's just a choice though. But if you want to buy 2 different types, why not? But we are going to go with the assumption that you are going to buy one of every single vegetables. that you want to buy. So you want beet, one beet. So you can just go to it. And I know for a fact that I'm going to go with Detroit dark red. Otherwise, if I didn't have anything in mind, then I will try to read them. I know that I purchased this before. I believe, because those names sound familiar to me. So then you can just read about the beats. That way you can, or some of them that call your attention, you can read about them and then narrow it to one. So that's something you have to do. And as you read and you narrow it to one, the one you narrow it to, you write it down on your list. I have a spreadsheet there, and then you decide on the quantity you want to purchase. And you can pay attention to how many per ounce. And you can then decide how many to buy as well. So, and then you'll write the quantity, the price on your spreadsheet, and and then you just continue like that until you have the list of everything you are thinking about buying. And now you can review your list to decide on what you want to keep on the list and what you want to take out. And once things that I put on the list but I decided not to buy, I just took the price off. That way I can keep the list for next year. Does that make sense? So there are things that I didn't add here, but those I could add them later. But have your list, the quantity, the price, because you might go back and make adjustment as you are taking certain things out. And then you can, once you have a polished list, that things that you want to buy, you can now go back and just add them to the cart, and you'll go quicker, from there on. So because I have not cooked beets in a while, I don't know how my kids will feel about it. I didn't want to buy a lot of it, but just buy a little bit to give it a try to see how they feel about it. Therefore, then before I can, plant a good amount of it. Therefore, I just choose a little bit of that. So the next things, so that is the cabbage my daughter picked. Another daughter of mine picked that herb, and we just went with a small packet of it. That is an annual. So, and pretty much we have carrots there as well. For carrot, for instance, once you are done with beets, then you'll continue. If you want broccoli, you go to broccoli aisle. So for the cabbage, I told my daughter that I don't want hybrid. So she went to it, and she knows that we usually buy purple cabbage, and she likes it. So therefore, there was a lot of hybrid as well, and I think this one was organic, that purple January King cabbage. The organic is going to be expensive, and I told her that I'm not looking for organic seeds. The way the things is grown is what matters to me, not the way the seed has been generated, unless it is a hybrid. I don't want hybrid. So she eliminated the organic out of the list, and pretty much it just let her to choose between just one to work with. So she just had to click on that one and read it. I believe I purchased this before if I don't have more of that seeds. But yeah, that's how you process for elimination, and then decide. Sometimes you might have to click on the organic to see the price. In fact, the one she picked is an organic too. So that means she has option between that one and the others that are organic and not hybrid. And some of them were not even available. So the Kilmaro is hybrid. So I think hybrid is what priced him out of those, and she picked the Rondinda read. But yeah, so you'll take time to read. When you are buying it online, it gives you that option to read a little bit about the different types, and then you choose. I like online shopping because I can take notes and come back, continue taking notes, and when I'm ready, I can now go back and go straight to what I pick and just add them to the chart. But until then, I'll just little by little doing the search, reading, and taking notes of what I'm interested in and so forth. Even if you have multiple varieties I'm interested in, you can add it to your list because you already did the research. You just have to do the research once. You can add them to your list, but you could just add the price to one that you are thinking about planting, purchasing for this year, for instance. So, and in here I came and I chose Denver. So then I had to read about Denver, but I think we pick 3 types. No, I don't think Denver is what we pick, but we have Denver, we have Chardonnay, and we read through them, and I think one of my daughter made the pick, gave them 2 options. She read through it, 2 or 3 options. She read through it and she picked one, and I think that's what I went with. I read through it to see, and I think all of them that we picked, they were about the same length, and some of them they say are great for soil, heavy soil, and some of them didn't say that, and some of them say sweet. So those are key words that I keep in mind when I was reading through the different type of carrots: the length, the type of soil, and the taste. And out of the 2 that has the length and the sweetness or something like that, didn't say something about the soil, I just went with this one. And it doesn't seem to be like a long, but it seems to be kind of big. Does that make sense? So, but I don't know if that's the one we chose here. Let's see. Yeah, it's the one we chose. So, and now since we are picking one, I will see how many is in it. 500 to 1000 per gram. And then I did a calculation of ounces to gram and took note of that so that I don't have to keep doing it. So 1 ounce is 28 grams. So therefore I went with 1 ounce. That gives me enough seeds that I can plant 1 year worth of carrot. And having a big garden on 10,000 or so square footage property, including front and back and the house and everything. And I don't know how wide our garden is, but I think to grow carrot, I'll be able to grow a good amount of it. Therefore, I went with 1 seed because I'm trying to pick 1 vegetables and buy a bulk seed to grow a lot of it. And to be able to know which carrot is what, I just prefer to go with 1 type a year. That way, I can know that, oh, this variety Chardonnay is what I planted in 2025, and that's how it performed. And the following year, why now, if you want, you can try another one. Try a few, and then you can decide which one works well for you and just narrow it down to that one, and that's all you'll need to purchase when you purchase the seed every year for it. If you are going to plant carrot every year. So you get the point. And then we will move to the next and do the same things again, and so forth, until you have the list of everything you want to purchase. Go through it, eliminate what you want to eliminate or keep for the next year list or something like that. And once you are ready, you place your order, and then you're done. So now, how did I decide what to plant, to be able to decide what seed to purchase? Well, I first brainstorm about our food group. So generally our food group consists of grain. Carbohydrate will come from there. That's what fills you up. Protein is what fills you up as well. That's the meat. You have vegetables and fruits. And vegetables and fruit provide the nutrient and the vitamin that help us prevent diseases. So, and then you have dairy. So dairy will provide the calcium, although calcium can come from vegetables as well. And I think based on my research, it seems like vegetables from MyPlate type of diet consistency, vegetables and fruit is 50% or more of the food group, the entire food group. So I pick vegetables and fruit to grow in my garden. I know some people grow raise chicken and for meat or egg. I just don't like to raise animals for that purpose. So for now, vegetables and fruits is what I focus on. So I planted a lot of fruit trees in our garden. And fruit trees, because if you eat a lot of fruits, or people in your house eat fruit, planting fruit trees, if you have land for it, could help you lower your bills when it comes to fruit trees. So you can lower over time, because it takes some years to produce fruit. It might take some years, but over time you won't have to buy some fruit from the grocery store, or some part of the year you may not buy some fruit. Although when you are planting fruit trees, it will be good to introduce some berries, because berries produce faster. Strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, you plant them this year. Next year you should expect harvesting from them. While your fruit trees, like that will produce heavily, could take 5 years and more, depending on the rootstock they are grafted to. I like to buy dormant trees online. I don't buy potted plants, because fruit trees can be expensive, and I don't like to dig a lot either. Therefore, I like to just buy dormant plants that comes with no leaves on it, one trunk or few branches on it, and a short root. That's what I purchase, and then I will plant it. And as you can see, we have a lot of fruit trees on our city front yard and backyard, and some of them didn't survive burning damage, and some of them did, and some of them got damaged and grew back from below the graft area, and I didn't cut it, I just left it. But we do have a lot of fruit trees, and by fruit trees I'm adding strawberries as well, and raspberries, just one variety. Even if I have a lot of them, one variety of things that I planted. So, and we have a lot of fruit trees, and one year I tend to total them all, and I don't know if I have it at the bottom of the spreadsheet here, but we do have a lot of fruit trees on the property, so that over time we will be able to harvest enough fruit and not buying fruit, because we do buy a lot of fruit. And as you can see, 31 trees in 2017, 66 fruit plants and trees planted from 2014 to May 2017. So about 30 fruit trees are growing in the garden as of 2022. So you can see how many didn't survive. And I hope that 30 account. So that is up to 2022. So in 2024, I added to it, so I need to update that number. So no, I have it here, but I didn't purchase it. I didn't purchase this one either. I need to update it, but I purchased pear trees and I didn't purchase 2. I believe I purchased 4 or 5. That was okay. So this was the plan. Okay, plan to purchase. But what got purchased in 2024. So 1, 2, 3, 4 pear trees got added. There is one that didn't really grow in 2024. When I was planting it, there was a lot of ants there. Instead of moving a little bit away from there, I planted there anyway. So it didn't grow well during 2024 last year. So I don't know if I lost that plant, that tree, or if it'll come back this year. But it's there. And let's see. You can see fruit trees can be expensive, even though I don't know how they call it. That how I'm talking about it, like no leaves on it, few branches that are just one trunk, few branches and short roots, bare roots. I think it's called bare roots. If you buy those type of trees, I think they are called bare root. But when I'm buying my trees, I like to buy a specific type of root grafts. I go with semi-dwarf or not dwarf at all. So those can be very big trees, and I like to keep them that way. So natural, yeah, M11 root stock. That's something I searched before I bought it. M11 root stock will produce the full size tree for you. So those rootstocks trees takes longer to produce, and the tree will be bigger than many home grower discourage from. That's what I like to go with, because they are very strong and they will produce more of that tree, that fruit, and they will last many more years than a dwarf fruit trees. The roots will go deeper in the ground for those M11 rootstock. It's my belief they'll go deeper in the ground, pulling their own nutrient and water. And, so therefore I like to go with that. For those trees, if you want the short, you have to prune it, and I do not prune my fruit trees. I just let them be. If anything though, I prune the bottom of them, because I plant the fruit trees and I like to plant vegetables underneath them. Therefore, to be able to pass around now that they are growing wide, I'm pruning the bottom branches so that we have enough space to move. When people prune the top of their fruit trees to make them short, I'm pruning the bottom of them to make them taller. And a few days ago, I cut a big chunk of branch from a peach tree, because I have I have asparagus growing there not too far from it, and to get to the asparagus we have to bend like crawling type to get to it because of that lower branch. So I cut it away from there, and so that I can have more space underneath it. And we bought picker, like it's type something to harvest fruit so that we can pick those. That's one. Second, having those low branches, dealing with deer and bunny, especially deer, they can get to those low branches. So we just prefer to have our fruit trees up, so that when we can see underneath them, we can pass underneath them, and we can harvest our fruit from up. So, but yeah, that is, don't know if I, and let's see if I have planting record. If I have tree size. Okay, so tree size, and it's good to know those. I'm spending so much time on trees, but so yeah, for standard, those are the size of those fruit trees. And see, my drive tells you the size. Standard tree, that's the size. And so, and then I did some search, and I even email people as well. So here, most apple trees on semi-dwarf will fruit in 2 to 3 years, as well as apricot, pear, plum, and sour cherry. Persimmon seedling will take 5 to 10 years to fruit. And that is another. I have quincy, and those quincy were grafted to their own rootstock. That's good that I have this here. I didn't even know, because the bunny damaged one of them, and it grew back from the root, from the graft area. So that's good to know that the rootstock is another quincy that it was grafted to. So, and I think it grew below and above the graft area. I'm not even sure, but if the bunny damaged a fruit trees and it's still growing, I just let it be. Apricot, bunny damaged 2 apricot tree, they didn't grow back, so I don't have apricot in the garden. But peach tree, bunny damaged 2 peach tree, they grew back, and 2 years ago one produced a lot, and we harvest those peaches. They were very good. The other one produced red peach. We didn't eat much of it, so I don't know how it's going to do this year. So I just don't know. When it's growing below the graft area, you just don't know what you'll harvest. So you can keep it, or you can replant another one and have 2. But or you can carry, if you have the heart to carry the trees off of your property, or why not? Just let it just become a regular tree on your property, and you plant another version of it, that will grow what you actually want to, that you intended to purchase. So I email, and I saved the email. It was again back in 2017 or so. I saved the email, so that I can have it in my record. So it's good to have a spreadsheet or a document where you save those records, because you may not remember those. So, and I think okay, so you see, I wish I put the dates, but having those dates here just telling me that this email could well have been a 2017 as well. But anyway, so I just want to share that information in case that is something that might help you in your garden. But fruit trees takes a long time to produce. So we have fruit trees, and I think I've made a good choice by selecting those, by focusing on fruit trees, because frankly, if you want to save on groceries, with the amount of fruit you can harvest, you can actually quantify your saving there. And as they are producing, you can just continue taking note of those things to for your own record, that you can come back and revisit, brainstorm about, use as a reference, to see if you make good choice, or what you'd have done differently if you were starting over, and things like that. So that is for fruit trees. Sorry if I spent too much time talking about fruit trees here. So now vegetables is the second things that I focus on as well. With a city land, cannot really growing. I'm not even trying to. And for me, it's not about growing everything. It's about growing something to supplement my groceries. And I noticed that since sometimes when I'm not growing something, I don't buy it. For instance, I don't buy asparagus, but I eat asparagus because I'm growing it in my garden. I don't buy rhubarb, but because I grow rhubarb, I can use it to make rhubarb jam, to make rhubarb whatever drink. I haven't made rhubarb sauce to go with pork steak before, but yeah, and rhubarb pie if you mix it with another fruit. But I focus on vegetables and fruit trees. So now let's talk about vegetables. So vegetables, you will still have to narrow them down because it is a vague, it is a wide range of food there. So with me, I try to know a little bit about myself to guide me in my gardening style. So I noticed that I don't like to dig in my garden. When I'm digging and I'm coming across worm and all those, I feel like I'm bothering them, and I don't want my things to cut them. So therefore, when I plant root crop like potato, even carrots before, sunchokes that I still have in the garden, I don't dig them out. I have horseradish, which is a root spice, but that's the only things that I tend to dig times to times. But I don't dig things out. When I had to dig too much to find it, I just don't dig. Therefore, I noticed that root crop, I had to stay away from it or be more strategical about it. So I noticed that I don't like to babysit plant. That's one reason why I don't like to raise animals. So I don't like to babysit plant. And babysit, I don't know if I wrote it well or if that's EAT. But anyway, and I don't like to interfere with their growth. I just like to observe them grow. So, and I don't like to water. I don't like to remove wild plant from the garden. And I noticed that onions don't do well with my gardening style. Some year they'll do well, some year they won't. So while planting perennials and fruit trees, I planted onions. Onions are vegetables that you can harvest this in the year you planted them, and they produce a lot. So when you are planting perennials, you are planting fruit trees, it's good to plant things that you'll harvest faster while you are waiting on the others to establish. That's why berries and more fruit trees is important for you to plant if you eat them, because you can harvest it the following year. And when you plant perennial vegetables, they are slow to grow and establish. Therefore, it's okay to plant onions that you can harvest the same year you planted them. Does that make sense? That gives you some a source of accomplishment, giving you more excitement to continue forward while you are waiting on your perennials and fruit trees to establish. But by trying those onions, I know that some of them did well, some of them didn't. So I narrow my strategy to perennials, vegetables, and fruit trees to grow. I'm just using my example to share with you for you to be able to to see if there is a tip to pull out of it. So it's not about this strategy is the best or anything, because our personality play a role in what we do. So, and I don't like to plant things indoor either, because when you plant things indoor, you have control over those things, and I just don't like to have control over those things. I like to let them grow. But this year I'm starting some onions indoor, and I'm learning that I definitely don't like to do that. So that is something I'm taking note of as well. So if you and your household eat fruit, yes, you can plant fruit to save money. So this year, to be more intentional about our garden and grow more food to supplement our groceries, well, I had to plant some onions because I'm not harvesting enough perennials for 1 year green supply. especially in 2024, my perennial vegetables produce less, so I let them just replenish their energy. And I purchased cabbage a lot, I purchased kale a lot. And cabbage that I purchased, some of them will be moldy, and I didn't appreciate that. If sometimes outside will be good and inside will have mold somewhere on multiple layers of leaves. I took note of that as well, and decided that I need to plant more greens, even if that has to be onions to supplement my perennials, vegetables or greens. And I tend to grow more greens, and that's something I know about me as well. So you have to know what you cook more of, what you like to have more of, to plant more of that. And I noticed that I don't buy enough greens, and I like to cook more greens. Therefore, I need to grow more to supplement what I'm buying and replace that if possible. Sweet bell pepper is one thing that I purchase, and it tastes bland most of the time for me, as well as carrots. Therefore, I like to see if I can do better by growing them. And I know that those things don't grow well in my garden, but I'm thinking about giving them more energy this year to see if I can do better. So that is the goal. And I'm thinking about having a raised bed, because in the garden, deer is getting in, bunny is getting in. So having fence within fence for the first few years help to allow my fruit trees to grow taller. After bunny damage, I put chicken wire. I have chicken wire around the fence for the garden, but I have chicken wire around the fruit trees as well. So, but yeah, and now the fruit trees are tall. Deer is getting in the garden because I removed inside fence out. But I'm not going to talk about fence in this. So I'm thinking about having a raised bed for the onions. I'm going to discipline you if you keep making noise, knowing that you shouldn't be doing that. And the discipline will be you are now using your computer. So you need to calm down. If you want to use your computer, you need to keep the noise, the stomping down, Jaden. Thank you. So we are going to grow some onions. So that is the strategy that I went through before I even have a list of things that I want to grow. And I do not want to give up on my perennials. We'll still grow them. And having perennials, the beauty of growing perennial vegetables is you buy those seeds once. You will work to get them to germinate. And once they start growing, you can just propagate from roots, from cutting, or from seeds, or a combination of few of those methods. And you just keep propagating them to have enough in your garden based on how much you are thinking about harvesting from them for your uses during the year. It is a process. So when people are trying to plant in spring, that's when I start harvesting from my garden, because I have things in my garden that just come back year after year, and they grow fast in spring and in fall. Therefore, that's when I need to harvest them. So it is like I had to be on top of it to harvest them, and that's what I focus on. But this year, we are going to grow some onions as well. And growing onions, I'm going to have some herbs, some leafy green, and some root vegetables. So that's how I narrow them down. So it's good to have some in mind. And for the leafy green, I have cabbage, because my daughter picked cabbage, and I didn't really have good success with cabbage before, but I want her to be in charge of that. I'm thinking about growing kale, color, chard. So pretty much I have a list here, not necessarily for this year, but those are the greens. I just try to have a list of greens that I can, I can get my green from to cook, to eat as a salad or stir fry. So we have cabbage, kale, collard, chard, chicory, mustard, turnips green, peas, and green beans. For the peas, it's the vegetables. So I have them there. And then we have the root vegetables. Again, based on my experience of not digging things out of the ground, I went with root vegetables that either the root is above the ground and the root is just one root underneath the ground that I can just hold the plant and pull it out, or dig a little bit to loosen up the soil and pull it out. That will be an example of carrot. Beets, I think, is a little bit above the ground. At least kohlrabi is above the ground. So at least those roots that I will be able to plant and dig out without feeling like I'm digging a hole in my garden. Does that make sense? So beets, carrot, kohlrabi, radish, rutabaga, and turnips. I have them there. So squashes, so zucchini for summer squash, butternut squash, spaghetti squash for winter squashes. And then herb spices, I have pepper, sweet bell pepper. I didn't add tomato here, but yeah, tomato is there too. But although when it comes to pepper and tomato, I don't know if I'm going to grow them, because again, growing the seed indoor, I don't know, it's not causing any problem at all. It's not causing any problem at all, but we will see. I just feel like I don't know how to water those things, and it's just too much responsibilities that I'm willing to take on. I just like to observe those plants grow rather than me helping them grow. So I really don't know what to do to them to help them grow. They are growing just fine, and I feel like I'm helpless here. So therefore, I prefer not to start seed indoor. But in our zone 5A, bell pepper, and tomato, if I had to grow it, I had to start indoor. So we will see. And onion. So onions, we are doing basil and dill, chevril that my daughter picked is getting added, but it's saying that I didn't write it well. Don't know how I wrote it. That is now. Is it true? I don't know. We will see. It's a French herb. The word is French though. Chevril. Okay. So, maybe I will have to check it. But that is the herb that is just an example of herbs. But again, you will have to. Okay, Chervil. So, yeah, it's Chervil. And that is just an example. And for us, I just pick those onions to plant, to harvest enough, and probably blend it with oil or water and make ice cube through ice cube. And let's see. Let's see here. Yeah. You can just blend the herbs with water. That's what I did last year, and just put it in ice cube. I put it in the fridge, the blend in the fridge, and just put it in the ice cube tray, put in the freezer to make ice out of them, and put them in a zipper bag, and add more to the ice cube tray, and so forth until I make ice cube out of them all. Just label the bag and put in the freezer, and throughout winter you just take one ice cube and put in the food you are cooking. So and that is the goal. Do more of that to just grow our own herbs so that we do not buy them from the store. I buy chili pepper flakes, and this year I bought black pepper, whole black pepper, but I have not purchased black pepper in years, and I purchased ginger quite a bit as well during winter. But yeah, I have not purchased ginger in a while as well, for some years as well. But yeah, little by little, just stop buying spices and grow enough herb to be your herbs and your spice in your cooking for seasoning. For perennial herbs, salad bunny is one herb that I like to grow, and I'm starting it indoor to see it is growing. But again, those things I didn't have to start them indoor. It's just for me to be able to see, because I tried to plant them last year and they didn't really grow, or maybe they grew but I didn't know they grew, because again my garden has a lot of mulch in it, and maybe the mulch didn't help, I'm not sure. So therefore I'm trying them again to see, if they are going to grow. So, and caraway, lovage, and fennel. Jaden, I'm recording. But yes, so just a little at a time, you introduce those perennial and help them grow, in the sense that you dedicate a space to put them there and see if they are growing, and from there you can propagate. So those are the ones we like to focus on this year, and we place the order for the last one as well. But we have those 3 on hand already to work with. So now, what is your process for picking out and buying seed? Jaden.
What?
Viens ici. I'm recording. You need to stop that. It's loud. It's going to be recording the video. So now from the list you draft, you can now choose a little bit of everything to plant, or you can choose to a few and buy bulk seeds to plant those. So the way I try to do it is, I want to pick just few to focus on, since I'm not very good at growing onions. I grow more perennials. I decided to focus on few. In addition to that, I try to go with the scientific name. So I don't know if that's the right way of doing it, but that is the way I'm planning to do it. So you can choose vegetables from within one family to grow 1 year, and you grow enough of it to have enough supply for the year, and then the following year you can choose another family vegetables. So, and as you can see, chard and beet are the same family. I'm not seeing chards here because this one is root, but you can find chard and beets are in the same family. So, and then the third year you can choose another. I think shikori might be this one, I'm not sure. You can choose another family especially if you have different vegetables in your list and they all have different different family name. You can use that to decide how you want to go about it. So that is the brainstorm that I went through. Eliminate some that I decided not to buy this year after I have a plan on how I want to proceed. So if you have a list of things that and you add the scientific name, you can see the one that don't have the same scientific name. And if you want to rotate crop in your garden, that could be one way to go about it. Additionally, you can grow certain things in one area of the garden, another things in another area of the garden, and you can plant all those families the same year and just rotate where you plant them. That's one way to do it as well. Or you can mix them together in each bed so that you can deter an infestation of certain bug that will try to attack one family plant. If you have a lot of those in the garden, and that is another option. You just have to see what works for you. I had to try different ways to see the option that works well for my gardening style and my garden based on the challenges that I will go through. Are you going to charge it to use it?
See if it works.
Well, guess what? You are not going to use it until you calm down. If you keep making that noise and being disrespectful to me, you are now using your computer. So don't turn it on until you calm down, and let me know when you calm down. So, and option 2 will be, again, because we have different type of plants in the brassica family, I try to break them down this way, having like brassica, naples, and every single one of them per year. So I really don't know if I'm going to follow those strategy, but that is what I have in mind to work with. And after choosing the option, I went back to my spreadsheet. I like to try beet for sure, therefore I left the beet in there, but I took chard off. You see, I have them, but I took them off so that I can just keep the brassica on the list. So I keep all the brassica on the list to grow. So, and then after this year, I will have a strategy for it if I want to break down the brassica or grow the brassica as a brassica 1 year or so. I'll go from there. But right now, I'm going to try those that I have on my list to learn how to grow them. And I don't know, have you gone through this brainstorming before when deciding what to grow in your garden and what seed to purchase? And when it comes to what seed to purchase, if you have some seed that you purchased already, it's good to go through those seeds to see what you have before you purchase more. I have some seed, but I just don't know if they are viable or not. Therefore, I went ahead and placed order for certain seeds that I know that I have. And there are some seeds that I didn't place order for zucchini and squash and winter squash because I have those seeds and I like to give them a try. So I didn't buy those seeds because I want to plant my own. But as for the leafy green, I went ahead and buy those seeds. So as for where to buy your seeds, for bulk seeds, you can buy them online because a lot of time you may not see them at your local nurseries. If you are looking for a small packet, you can go with local nurseries. You'll be able to find them there. But with my strategy to purchase, to grow enough to actually make a dent in my grocery budget, I want to grow enough for 1 year supply. Therefore, bulk seeds is my go-to. So another things that I took into consideration was to produce enough green matter for the garden. My goal. Why are you going to the bedroom with the computer? You are not going to use your computer until you stop making noise first. So bring the computer back here. And when you come down, you let me know and I'll be able to let you use your computer. So, yeah. I like to create a fertile soil on my property. Therefore, I think about things that I can grow that some part of it can break down on the ground and mulch the ground. And during my search, I came across clover and alfalfa. Although Fedco didn't have the seed, because I was thinking about buying a bulk seeds and just put it in the garden. Clover is edible, so but I didn't come across it. And during my thinking, I know that I have a lot of wild plant in my garden, also called weeds in my garden, and I'm thinking that I like to just cut them down, and that's what I will continue to do unless I need a space to grow certain things. That's what I will continue to do, because a land that is growing something is a fertile land. Is growing those weeds, especially based on some people, a certain weed means you have a deficiency of a certain nutrient or mineral from your ground. That's why it's growing that way, to pull those minerals from deep the ground and put it above it for plant to benefit from it. So like dandelion and thistle and all those. So it's okay for me to have those weeds in the garden and just cut them to the ground level and let them come back again, and use their above ground power to break down in the garden and redistribute the nutrient they pull from deep the ground to the soil level for plants that don't have tap root to be able to benefit from it. So having those weeds in the ground is a good thing, because a ground that is growing things is a fertile ground. So if I'm trying to take those weeds out of the garden, then I need to plant things that will be growing in their place. So having those weeds in the ground, now I'm realizing that it's not a bad thing. I can just cut them down if need be, but let them grow and just cut them down to mulch the ground. So that will continue doing that, or I will see in which sense I will have to do that. Angelique, if that's your cord Jaden has in his hand, you need to take your cord back. He's going to hit the window with it. So, and alternatively, you can grow some vegetables in a large quantity so that some of them can just return back to the ground. Does that make sense? While you harvest some, or so that when you harvest some, some part of the vegetables can be left to decompose and and just become an organic matter on the ground, feed the organisms in the ground. So instead of buying clover and alfalfa, which I didn't even see anywhere, I will just grow my vegetables in large quantity so that I can harvest and still have some parts. So I did some search to see some plant that create a lot of biomass. Pretty much by biomass, I don't know if that means the same thing, but I'm just feeling like that produce a lot of organic matter, like has a lot of part of it that can be broken down. I think corn does that as well. Corn, when you pick up the corn, you'll have the corn stalk or things like that. But at the same time they require a lot of nutrient as well, though. I would think annuals, because they grow 1 year, you have to feed them for them to produce well. So that, but again, squashes produce large leaves. I think those leaves can be edible as well if you cook them, but those large leaves can break down on the soil. You have carrots that has tap roots that can loosen up the soil. You have winter radish, daikon radish that has long roots that can be used for that purpose as well. So for fertilizer, talking about annuals that will require feeding, I'm looking for a natural fertilizer. Therefore, I went with bone meal. And bone meal, based on my research, contain nitrogen and phosphate out of the 3 that usually are listed on fertilizers. So therefore, that's what I'm thinking about going with. And for nitrogen fixers, natural nitrogen fixers on our ground, on our, like, to keep feeding our land, I'm going with clover, alfalfa, which I don't have the seed for, peas and green beans. So this year we are going to grow peas, and for that reason we have a lot of peas on our list here to work with, if I can find it. So we have snap peas and snow peas, and you can see I purchased 1 pound of each. And instead of buying different type of peas, I just pick one variety of each. And the beauty of snow peas and snap peas, you can eat the pod. Therefore, I will be able to get a good amount of vegetables out of those 2, because I'm not going to get the seed out of it and toss the shell. And instead of trying to buy different varieties to give it a try, you can read through them and pick, you know, the one you want to go with. That's the things that we went with. And I purchased sugar and from a store, not knowing before I even went online, when I purchased small pack papers to plant. And buying it online at the local store was more expensive, I think, than buying it from the store. If I'm looking here, it was $6.99 for 3 ounces. It doesn't even say sugar, and it just says, oh, this one is Livingstone. I don't know if we have Livingstone here. Now we can compare the price. No, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it here. But regardless, I think it's pricey for $6.99, and it's a snap pea. So if I went back to, I believe this one is what we order, because the organic one will be more expensive, and I just went with the one that is not organic. But for 3 ounces for $6.99, 2 ounces here for $3.35. Okay, 8 ounces for $6.75. So you see, so it's even cheaper to buy online than to buy from a local store here, because 3 ounces for $6.99, while here is 8 ounces for $6.75. And of course, it's not the same variety, but I just went with 1 pound, because if you choose different type of snap peas, for instance, and you are, so let's say you bought 8 ounces of 2 different type of snap peas, the total is going to be around $13. When 1 pound double is $9.95. Does that make sense? With that strategy in mind to save money, I just pick one variety and bought 1 pound of it. So, and then I pick snow peas as well, which has a flat pad and I went with oregano giant, I believe, and purchase 1 pound of that as well. So those are nitrogen fixer, and I'm thinking about taking the time and just, since I have a fence around my garden, taking the time and just plant it all around the garden fence and around the fruit trees as well. If it grows and climb the fruit trees, it can climb the fruit trees. So you can see when you have fence all around your garden 4 feet tall or so, and you have fence inside the garden, it tends to look like a maze. It's not very convenient, but deer won't jump in it. It confused them. But once I took the interior fence out, it's a big wide rectangle or so. It's easy for them to just jump over. We have chicken wire outside of the fence, but again, Bunny can find a way in if there is a little gap somewhere. Therefore, after they damage the fruit trees, I want to put chicken wire around the fruit trees itself so that they do not do more damage to them. And now that deer can get in, they cannot really damage the fruit trees because they are tall. They can eat some leaves, but those fruit trees are tall enough that I'm not worried about them doing damage to them. But yeah, and this is May 24th, 2024. You can see the garden full of Egyptian onion all around here, with some wild plant and some maple seeds that I do not care much for. Like, it has a name for those seeds that flies from my neighbors to my garden. But yeah, so I just try to view the weed in the garden as feeding the microorganisms in the ground. The ground wants to remain covered, not exposed. Therefore, I either remove those weeds and plant a cover crop, or I just let those weeds grow and just plant my things. Take some area, clear some area, plant my things, and plant a lot of the things to cover that area that are cleared, and let the residue after harvest, let residue break down in place, to mulch the area. And the peas, because the nitrogen fixer, it might produce some nitrogen source for the plant that are that want the nitrogen. And we do have some fruit trees that are nitrogen fixers as well, gummy and autumn olive. So, but I don't really know. That's what they said about them. I don't know. I can't really test if they are providing nitrogen to my garden or not. But during my search, that's what was said about them. And that's gummy here. Don't know if I have information on that, but it is a nitrogen fixer. Another one is Acton olive, and both are selling. The gummy produce a lot of fruit.
5. So it's 10:35 now. It is 5 there. So
And Acton olive
25 plus 17.
Acton olive is a nitrogen fixer as well, and those are very high in antioxidants. So this is still in the garden. This one is not in the garden anymore. Silverberry. So it's known to be a nitrogen fixer. So when you are planting your fruit trees, why now? If you are thinking about growing vegetables, maybe planting some fruit trees because they are nitrogen fixer could be a way to go. Just cannot attest it for sure that they produce nitrogen, for my plants, but I shall introduce them to the garden.
What?
But yeah, it's good when you are planting your garden, you think in those sense as well. And as for nitrogen biomass, we have comfrey as well. And comfrey, let me see, don't know if I have comfrey there, but we can look up comfrey. Comfrey can produce a lot of biomass as well. So, and they produce large leaves, and you can harvest those to mulch, or they can just break down, like the plant die back to the ground level and will grow back in springs because it's hardy to ozone 5A. Therefore, you can even harvest some mulch underneath that plant, around that area to put as around some plant of yours. So that's what I'm going to do, but it does produce a lot of leaves. So, and comfrey, they have Russian comfrey. The one that I have, I don't know which one it is. A biologist gave it to me, so at a community garden. So I don't know which one between the Russian comfrey and this comfrey. I'm just going to assume I have this one, but it's medicinal. Comfrey is medicinal, and it is a fertilizer. I just like to cut the leaves and just mulch with it. But just if you are trying not just to grow plants, but actually grow an environment for your vegetables to grow in, fertilize, like making your land fertile might be a goal you might add to your to-do list as well. So for instance, I'm going to have a raised bed, and I'm working on getting the material so we can put it together, but I'm not going to put a fabric cloth at the ground before I start building. I'm going to build from the ground up because I value my land enough that I know that my land has more nutrient in it than the soil that I'm going to put in the bed. And I'll have another video for that bed how we built it. But I purchased soil for the bed, and I went to a landscape company to order the soil, and 1 cubic yard is $100 for 1 cubic yard. So it is expensive. But when they deliver, and I was holding it to the back, I didn't see any worm in it. I asked them the soil, because I didn't want to buy compost. I asked them if the soil will have heavy metal in it, hot water or something like that. They say no, there is a land that they show me that they are trying to level up, so they are going to get dirt from the top there to sell. So, and I don't even know if I have the price for it here. Clearly I don't. So, but oh yeah, I do. So yeah, it's expensive, and I didn't come across one worm from it. But when I'm digging in my own ground where I'm going to put the bed, when I was digging onion that my kids planted there, Egyptian onion, when we were digging a lot of there, we came across worm in the ground. So I'm not going to put anything at the bottom of the bed, and the bed is going to be tall, 3 feet tall is the calculation. Therefore we need a lot of dirt to put in it, and I'm going to pretty much build that soil that I'm putting in the bed, build it into a fertile soil. Does that make sense? So I'm thinking about filling it up, the bed, digging in my own garden to get some dirt to add it at the top, and plant in, and then buy bone meal to fertilize those plants, because my soil may not have enough nutrient in it for those onions to be able to pull all the energy they want in 1 year out of it. So I will supplement with bone meal. But that is my process to, to picking seeds to buy to grow in my garden. What is yours? And again, it's good to have a gardening style. And here I just list few: perennial gardening, which is mine; mulch gardening, which is mine; in-ground gardening, growing in the ground, which is mine, that's what I do; and raised bed, which I do not like, but I like to give it a try this year. And a combination of few to just find your gardening style, what you like. Again, let's feed our land and let our land feed us. Thank you so much for your time. If you are for more of garden video related videos, will you please check the video description. We have a playlist where we catalog our garden related videos, and our goal with gardening is to be able to grow some of our own vegetables to supplement our grocery bill, our groceries. Thank you so much for your time. We thank you very much for watching our videos. We thank you very much for all your comments, and we thank you very much you all that subscribe to our channel. I'm Afiavi Liberman, Cross of Liberman Consulting L.L.C YouTube channel, and ninasoap.com our blog. On our channel and on our blog, we share different ways to save money and different ways to make money to reach your financial independence, where you do not depend on an employer to provide for your family. And growing your own food is one way to save money. Thank you. Just keep in mind though that when you start growing your own food, you'll need some infrastructure, and those infrastructure can cost a lot of money. And a lot of times we like to think that while we purchase, we should be able to grow enough food to save enough to equate what we spend on the garden. But when you are buying things to build your garden infrastructure, those things last more than 1 year. Therefore, you should not be comparing the full cost to 1 year of produce. The best way we should do that is estimate how long those things can last. If it's a raised bed you want to create, if the raised bed can last 5 years, then you should take your raised bed cost divided by 5, for instance, to find 1 year cost of it that you should depreciate, and see if you can grow enough food that 1 year, that if you are trying to buy, especially buying it from a health store or buying organic because you are growing it at home, chances are you are not using chemicals on it. Therefore is organic. So comparing it to organic to see if it will have cost you more to buy while you harvest it. So one way to do that will be to take pictures and weigh those things that you are harvesting and take note of them, so that you can do those comparisons to see if you harvest enough to meet or to exceed 1/5 of your infrastructure cost. Does that make sense? So, and go from there. But if there are seeds that you are comparing it to, those annual seeds are for 1 year growth. So if you buy seeds and you didn't use them all, depending on if maybe you use half of it, then while you harvest it, you can compare it to half the cost of the seed to see if you harvest enough to pay for half of those seeds that you purchased. That will be one way as well. But a lot of time where the gardening cost will come from will be the tools, the garden tools like the shear, the carrot, the shovel, and those things. I told you are not going to use your computer until you calm down. You didn't tell me that you are going to stop disturbing my video recording process yet. What?
I am.
You are? Okay, then you can use your computer. So those things can cost quite a bit, and we can see that the lumber that I purchased costs quite a bit as well. I don't even know if I have all my costs here. I have the cost in here that I didn't put how much per each on this side, but I didn't include a lawnmower for the lawn. But again, your garden bed could be a landscaping design as well for your house. Therefore, why not? I added my electric lawnmower there as well, and that is just for one store, you know. So, and I cannot just say I need to grow enough food worth $1,300 the first year, am I? But it should not be the goal. If those things will last 5 to 10 years, let's just say minimum 5 years, then we need to take this divided by 5 to see if I can grow from that one bed enough food to equate 1/5 of what the cost is. The cost is not just that, because I have the dirt that will go in it as well. And I might have another video for how much it costs for the bed, to have just one bed. And again, I don't like bed, but if I'm going to have one, I want one that is tall enough that I can stand up and tend to the plant without bending down. So, but, and I prefer to have one bed a year so that I can learn from it and keep improving as I continue going forward. I don't like raised bed generally, because having fruit trees, I want them to establish to see what kind of shade they are going to put on my yard before I can start putting infrastructure that are not easy to move around. So therefore I prefer to just grow at the ground level, because I can just change where I'm growing things. Even if they are perennial, I can dig them, or I can repurpose them to the right place. When I'm propagating, I can propagate to the right place that I want things next around the garden. But when it comes to having a raised bed, it's kind of hard to put those fixed infrastructure, not knowing how the garden will be in 5 years with fruit trees still growing to full growth. Does that make sense? So, but again, it's my garden strategy. But now that I want to grow some onion, I like to put one bed in at a time, and I want it high enough that the air won't get to it, bunny won't jump on it, and I can stand up and tend to it. But it comes with a cost, a lot of dirt and a lot of lumber, especially if you are going with untreated lumber. They are pricey. Thank you so much for your time.